This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. More on them later.
Okay, so I gotta talk about the official translation for 1166 because it changed a lot for me. And I don't mind this. I was a little cold, so either way, let's talk about 1166 and how a lot changed based off the official translation. I have something I'm working on with Garp and Sengoku because I think a lot of people are off base with Sengoku. I don't think he's the best person, but I definitely don't think he's the worst. So we're going to talk about that in the next video, but we're going to focus on the official and how it changed a lot of perspective for me here. Now, yes, welcome to the Perspectives episode. And again, talking to people, comments, just taking in as much as I did over the weekend. Opinions change. So let's talk. The start of the chapter, Rox is contemplating life. Rox is asking himself, will I leave this island alive? Reminded me of Cobra. That Cobra, after a certain point when he was talking to the Gorosei, he was asking, dang, what can I say to get out of this? Where it's a welcomed thought. Because, it's hard to say how one feels knowing their life is about to end. But I feel like it's human to cling to life, to crave life. And so to see Rox asking that, will I get out of this alive? Right before he dies, it's a bit sad. Some crazy folk may say, oh, the foreshadowing. I think Rox is better off dead.
You ever wonder about how to get your business online without the headache? I did. I tried juggling sites and sales myself, and it was a mess. It took me forever to figure out design, payments, and all that jazz. That's where today's sponsor, Squarespace, steps in. It's a platform that handles design, sales, payments, all in one place. I used it to build a solid site, perfect for growing my work and building my own legacy, like a captain charting a course. Squarespace uses design intelligence, smart tech that unlocks your creative potential. It built me a professional site, no coding needed. Their payment system manages sales and invoices. Klarna, Apple Pay, you name it, they do it. Squarespace Payments simplifies tracking sales and printing shipping labels. It is a complete setup for any business, whether you're just starting up or scaling up. And with the online store feature, I set it up to sell products seamlessly. It's like having a crew that handles the heavy lifting while I focus on the business. Want to try it? Go to squarespace.com/B.D.A. law for a free trial, and you can get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Click the link in the description. It's right on the screen here. Check it out. Now back to the video.
Now, this means nothing for legacy because what legacy is there to be spoken of? There's no legacy to be remembered considering how he died and what they did to his legacy. But I think his stamp on the world was a moment in time that was fleeting and it did what it had to do. Not saying the world has moved on, but I think for the most part, his legacy lies with Blackbeard. And then Blackbeard will make the world remember Rox. I foresee at some point, Blackbeard changes his name officially and he will take on the Davy name. He may even take on his dad's name in a way, just to remind the world of what they forgot. So that first page, I don't want to say woke me up, but I mean, I like Rox. Something else I want to address because there are a lot of people that are, of course, they love Roger. I love Roger, but I really like Rox. I think Oda did a great job of bringing Rox into the story and letting us experience him in a way that it made us enamored with the character. And a lot of people, they love Rox. So how Rox went out, some people called it lackluster, some people were disappointed, and people were immediately jumping on the point of, well, you guys like Rox, you feel like he's a larger-than-life character, you want him to have a grandiose death. That could be partially true. Now, for me, a grandiose death isn't one that I wanted for Rox, considering that his legacy is non-existent outside of bloodlines. But you wanted to understand what he lived for, and if how he died would represent that. I think him dying the way that he did was fitting. It is by himself. I mentioned before in my review that no one came back for Rox, but that's because of how he lived. And, the person that was fighting for him, with him, Whitebeard, because of those bonds and how loose those ties were as far as like the reasons to fight, I can understand Whitebeard walking away, but even then I questioned just why things played out the way it did. Ultimately, Rox died alone because of how he went about his life. I'm not speaking for everybody in the fan base, obviously, but for me, I'm not upset at how he died. I'm not upset that everybody didn't know of this grandiose death. Maybe I wanted more. I can't even articulate exactly what I wanted. All I can say is that moment was okay. It was fine. And that's it. Let's move on. Also, rocks. And again, the translations, they changed so much for me that I had to talk about this. Previous translations, it was almost implying that Rocks knew something about Roger and Garp or the D clan, that he was saying, yo, no, you guys can't die here. No. Rocks knew he was going to die, so he was just saying, I don't want Roger and Garp to die here with me. He's saying, guys, just run. There's no reason for you guys to stick around and die with me. Because for Rocks, I don't think he was a good man, but I do think he was an honorable man, especially towards like his latter days. So again, that changed. The solo sky split that the narrator kind of used as a way to close the curtain on this event. How it's communicated here, it feels like it's just splitting everybody's story, because it goes on to say that a number of new stories began, right? So everybody is going their own way, taking on their own route, and taking whatever they took from this event and going their own way, right? And that strike was almost like the end of an era, and I guess creating a new one with all these legends kind of starting their own story now. You can't talk about God Valley without talking about Garp. It's Garp Valley. And Sengoku has been thrusted into the forefront because of his views and how he approaches things. I think as a fan base, we're very reactionary. I mean, that's a lot of fan bases, but we're very reactionary. And we can love or hate somebody from chapter to chapter just based on what they do or what they say, even though the way they live their life has so many examples of things that I think we should not take for granted. Garp is a major player in this because Garp is at the forefront of so many things, and we've been critical, right? A lot of people have been critical to Garp because of how he's gone about it. But I think in general, Garp gets a pass from me because I trust him. Let's first talk about Garp and Dragon, and then we're going to touch on Sengoku and Garp a bit because, again, full-fledged thing is coming. Garp and Dragon. Translation changed it for me. It felt much better. Dragon says, I'm quitting the Navy, Dad. And the official Garp says, I know. Then he says, I'm disgusted with you. Garp says, I know. And he drops the key, and one could assume he just walks off. Not mad at it. I'd much rather this than K. Because K is dismissive. K is not an acknowledgement at all. It's basically saying, I don't care. That's what K means. Especially in something of this magnitude. Guys, Garp basically has spent his life in the Navy. Of course, he wanted his son to be a part of the Navy. Of course, he cares about how his son feels about him. He said as much about Luffy. He said verbatim, of course, I'm going to care how my grandson feels about me. So, of course, he's going to care how Dragon feels about him. So, K, what are we doing? I know that changes things a lot because it's an admission. It's understanding. I get it. I know this is something that you need to do. I'm disgusted with you. I know. I'm disgusted with myself, with the organization, but I can't leave. I know speaks volumes because it's taking on that burden and saying, I'm not blaming you, Dragon. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to fight you on it. Even though this is something I'm super passionate about, I understand why you need to leave. I know. And for Dragon, it's like, okay, it's not the time or place because I got to get out of here. But we'll have the conversation. With this translation change, I no longer feel more was necessary. This is absolutely perfect because this is something Oda has not fleshed out at all. We can't, but I don't think it's a time or place for a long-winded back and forth or exchange because we know we're going to get that. It's on the horizon, but I know it's laying the groundwork for how we knew Garp felt and how we knew Dragon felt. So when we finally get their conversation, because Garp has said they've spoken before, they do speak, we'll have some context. We'll know where we're going. We'll go into it knowing, okay, this is where Garp is, this is where Dragon is. Go. We'll understand that. And so this is more than enough for me. Because some people are not going to be okay with, I know. Garp, say more, which would be welcomed. I just don't think it's the time, though. But the acknowledgement, the understanding of why Dragon has to do what he's doing, perfect. Now, we'll expound once we get more with Dragon and Garp, because I am super interested into where this conversation goes. However, I mean, I think we pretty much know what the conversation is going to entail. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why can't you come with me? It's going to be Garp explaining because Garp is not a man of many words, right? Somewhat expressing why he has to do what he does. Again, going back to Garp and Sengoku, the idea now is that Garp is for the people and Sengoku's for the organization. I think we can acknowledge that they're both for the people in different ways. The translation says as much because it changes, and I'll read the translation here. So Sengoku tells Garp that the world government and the Navy are both massive organizations. If you include the militaries of all the member countries, there are tens of millions of soldiers across the world. It's impossible to be completely aware of what every last one of them is doing. So when I notice that the upper management is doing something insane, I can just look the other way. That's going to rub anybody the wrong way. Anyone saying that they will look the other way is going to rub anyone the wrong way. But Garp says, that's what I hate about you, Sengoku. You ladder climbing fool. And Sengoku says, shut up. What is barking from the bottom of the cliff going to accomplish? Then he says, Garp says, if you turn out like them, I'm going to kill you myself. He says, well, with friends like you, how can I possibly go wrong? There's tongue-in-cheek in this back and forth, but there's also a lot of truth in it. Garp and Sengoku are still very good friends. Sengoku never turned out like them. Sengoku is just saying and acknowledging he's going to control the controllables. Garp looking the other way in his own way, but he's willing to protect the bottom while Sengoku is going after the top. Now, there's a merger here that happens that hasn't been explicit, but I think it is. It is implied. I think the story is basically telling us this is their baby, but they're going about it in different ways. Sengoku says in the chapter, don't tell me you're quitting, Garp. Garp says, are you some kind of idiot? I've got plenty to protect at the bottom of the cliff, as you call it. Something I'll reveal about my Sengoku and Garp take is that when Impel Down happened and it was chaos, anarchy, Garp was laughing. And he was saying he was proud of Luffy. He was laughing. And Sengoku was furious. And Sengoku said to Garp, I should make you pay for all of the things that your family caused. And Garp says, my life isn't worth all of this chaos, bro. It can't pay for it. Sengoku was bothered because the level 6 prisoners had escaped and there was really no record of it. Even deeper than that, at Marineford, Sengoku was pissed after the world government told him, yeah, we're not going to let people know about that. He was saying that is absurd. Personally, I think that was his boiling point because what happened after that? He resigned. And then guess who his recommendation was? It was Kuzan, who we think is a great person and a great Marine. But the point is not Sengoku's actions, but it's just the actions of Garp and then the things that Garp says. You want to protect the bottom of the cliff. Indeed. However, laughing at Luffy's actions and how level 6 prisoners escaping, that could really impact people at the bottom of the cliff more than anything. So it's not to say Garp is, or Sengoku is better than Garp. It's just showing how both characters have ways in which they do things that really don't make any sense, or it's contradictory, and it can affect the average citizen. But more to come on that. I really just wanted to point out the differences in translation and how much, as far as perspective, it's reaffirmed how I feel about Sengoku or how the story has made me feel about Sengoku. Because I think in One Piece, it's a few things. When you go through the story the first time, it leads you to feel a way. When you go through it multiple times, it changes how you feel about certain characters. Going through the story, Sengoku felt like an asshole. He felt like somebody that was just thinking about the status quo. We know about his justice. Going through it again, you understand that he's probably the more realistic of the two when it comes to understanding sacrifice and what's necessary, controlling the controllables. But we'll talk more about Garp and Sengoku. I promise we will. Give me your thoughts. How did you feel about this chapter after a few days? Garp, Sengoku. Give me your honest thoughts. I want to hear them. We'll talk about it. Like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.